Hello and welcome.
This is Gertie.
I'm Gertie and this is Ella.
I'm Ella. And this is our channel where we talk about our feelings and occasionally hold rats.
In this video, we are going to be tackling the topic of symptoms. The structure for this video is going to be, we're going to talk about our symptoms personally, and then we're also going to go on a couple websites and articles, what you would see if you looked up PMDD symptoms.
It's obviously not the daytime, maybe you can tell by the lighting. We're filming this on a Friday night at 10 o'clock.
So forgive us for being a little lower energy than usual and getting straight to it.
So to start off, Gertie's going to share some of her symptoms.
We have them written down.
Yeah, we're all prepared.
We've been prepared.
We've been prepared. We have tried to film this video, I think, like 8 times.
Yeah, 8 times. So I've kind of separated my symptoms into two separate categories, physical and emotional. I think that was probably the easiest way to do it. For physical symptoms, I would like to disclaim I have diagnosed ADHD, and so a lack of focus and brain fog is something that I really struggle with, especially like memory and stuff. And that is like ADHD symptoms, but it is like quite more, like it's a lot more severe when my PMDD is
active.
Yeah. So aside from brain fog and like befuddlement, I also experience nausea, lack of appetite, craving, along with kind of the nauseousness. There's like dizziness, kind of like a light headache.
That's a big one for me too. It's the light headache. It's like persistent. It's never a migraine.
No, it's never a migraine.
But it's
annoying.
Around. Yeah.
Something that I find to be like probably one of the most difficult symptoms is chronic fatigue. It'll like wipe you out. It's debilitating. Yeah. It's rough. So that's something that I really struggle with.
And you never like have time for the things that you actually want to do or for self-care. It's just like when you have chronic fatigue, and a lot of PMDD sufferers do, it's like you can only focus on that one thing that day sometimes.
Fully.
Like,
you're on survival mode. Like you don't have time for like leisurely activities.
Yeah, and that's so hard because everybody always pushes and says, like, you've got to look after yourself.
That's a really good point to mention, because that is something that gets brought up is, oh, if you practice more mindfulness, more yoga, more lifestyle changes, do whatever. Like, that would 100% benefit anybody, but, like, if you're experiencing all these, like, I can't do that.
I mean, it really depends on the person. You will find your thing that helps, but that's not going to be it's just going to be a Band-Aid. It's not going to fix all your problems, and it's not going to work all the time.
As far as physical symptoms go, I think a lot of PMDD sufferers struggle with cramping. I know that is also like not a PMS, but a period symptom, and doesn't only affect PMDD sufferers, but I would like to say, like I've said this before on this channel, but like I've been getting like a tattoo and had a cramp, and the cramp was like 10 times more painful than the tattoo itself. And it also, for me, happens more before my period than on my period.
Like, it'll be the week before for me, or,
for sure.
You know, the Sunday, say I get my period on Saturday, it'll be the Sunday before.
Yeah.
And it'll be just the worst cramps. And then when I'm on my period, I have some discomfort, but it's not cramps.
It's not the same. I also cramp when I ovulate as well, and I know you do as well.
That's a big one. Ovulation has been something new, like, not new for me, but something like a period of time where I am experiencing PMDD symptoms, more physical than I'd say emotional, but the odd emotional one.
I totally used to have breakdowns every time I ovulated. As far as kind of more emotional symptoms go, I have written down irritability, which is a really big one. That also goes hand in hand with frustration. I just find that I'm very annoyed, on edge, can't deal with a lot of things.
Tolerance is really low.
Tolerance is so, like, bare minimum.
Yeah.
I also deal with a lot of impulsivity, which is my boyfriend's least favorite quality about me. It stresses him out.
Yeah.
I do think that, like, the symptoms are debilitating, and that leads to a lot of, like, you know, it being hard to keep a job. But I also think that the impulsiveness for me, it makes it really hard to keep a job because, like, you know, it's such a big part of your life. And at times I'm like, well, if I'm not happy, maybe this is the problem. And personally, I deal with a lot of depression, and unfortunately I have dealt with and do deal with suicidal thoughts. I also have written down here guilt and esteem, which we've already established is going to be
its own video.
Guilt, villain complex, and compassion is a topic that needs to be discussed in lengths, not just briefly mentioned. So that will be coming. And then my big one, what led me to getting diagnosed, my most jarring symptom is PMDD attacks or panic attack like things. It's basically like a very intense depressive episode.
Yeah.
A lot of hopelessness, a lot of suicidal thoughts.
Crying
For hours and hours and hours on end. I actually have a clip that I wanted to insert. I filmed this a while ago. I don't know exactly when. But I think that it is, like, an important side to show because it is, like, during an attack and me kind of talking about, like, my urges and symptoms. So I'm going to insert that here.
Hello, this is me at 8:30. Currently experiencing symptoms of having very strong urges to rip out my own hair and make myself throw up. So, documented. Just a Thursday evening. Yep.
Hopefully it was inserted there.
Okay, I'm gonna start with my physical symptoms, and then, like Gertie, I'll go into my emotional symptoms. So, first thing I have on here is bloating. I feel like probably about a week before I start my cycle again, I get pretty bad bloating. It comes with those cramps that you were talking about, and I'm the same way. I only really get them like the week before my period, not necessarily on my period. This one time specifically, I like got out of the bathtub and I was gonna go have a family dinner with my parents downstairs, and I like fell onto the ground outside the bathtub. And I just wrapped myself in a towel and I just stayed there for 40 minutes because I could not get up for the life of me.
I've, like, fainted from the pain.
Yeah, it's insane.
It's really intense.
It's insane. So I don't know if this is a more common thing with PMDD sufferers. I've heard some talk about how cramps may be worse for people with PMDD, but I'm not sure if that's...
I wonder. I've heard some things about that as well.
If that...
Let's just say I've had 3 IUDs inserted and it is on par.
And then brain fog. I don't have ADHD. However, when I am in the luteal phase, my focus is shot.
Out the door.
Like, when I have brain fog, I can't focus on anything. I had to get, like, an app on my computer to read my textbooks to me, or just, like, articles I have to read or anything for school. Like, I could not focus at all.
It
and
feels
on, like,
like a
tasks,
disability.
right? I have to write lists, and I have to constantly look at them or I won't get anything done.
It is a disability. It is, like, that's what, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Headaches, like Gertie said, mine are kind of just lingering, annoying headaches. Fatigue, same thing. Chronic fatigue.
Yeah.
Very difficult to deal with. And it's hard because you want to have that energy, but it also goes hand in hand with not feeling social. And if I push myself to do those things, it's so much worse.
It gets so much worse.
And that is what will lead up to an episode. Nausea-wise, I don't have tons of nausea, but if I do, it's like on my period.
Right.
It's not before.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that's not as applicable. Okay, my emotional symptoms. I have a lot of history and experience with volatility.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to start arguments with the people I'm really close to, my partner or my parents. Those are the 3 people I probably start these arguments with the most, and they can be very volatile. And they've become less volatile as I've learned what PMDD is, obviously.
Right.
But there's still a problem. Irritability, it just takes something small to set me off. Somebody says something, does something, cancels, texts me out of the blue when I'm not ready to respond. Oh my gosh. Frustration with anything, really, life in general.
Yeah.
Depression. I have experienced depression associated with PMDD. It's a very common symptom for me. I just kind of will have a few hours during a day where I'm depressed, or it could be like a few days during the month. It really varies. And yeah, that sucks for sure. And with that comes this feeling of hopelessness, like Gertie was saying.
Yeah.
Loneliness is another one.
That's
and a new really fun thing that I've started to do is like taking my anger and frustration out on like material possessions. Obviously never people. But just like got frustrated the other day because I was stressed out or overwhelmed about something, and I just like threw my hairbrush down on the ground, and it scared me. Like, it was loud, and I kind of just had to take a moment and calm down. But little things like that where I would never do that in my right mind, I would say, but it just scares me.
Loss of control is something that I guess is like, I think when we talk about it, it's really just assumed, but I guess if you're watching this and you don't have this, you wouldn't assume that. But loss of control is the biggest one, I would say. It kind of covers everything.
It's like the umbrella over top of PMDD, for sure. Okay, and then I wrote floopy.
Don't worry, I had to get that explained to me as well.
This is the only way my brain can conceptualize. It's floopy. It's just, that's what it is. So it's like an emotional brain fog. So it's a state of mind more than like a physical symptom.
Right.
And how I would define floopy is like I get really zoned out and spacey. I start to procrastinate. I do more spontaneous things. Like, I'm not as impulsive as you are. Yeah. I'd say, if anything, it takes me forever to like make the simplest decisions. Right. Like, if my boyfriend's over, he has to pick out my clothes in the morning. Yeah. Like, I cannot focus. I'm forgetful. And that makes me feel terrible because I love to be productive. I love, obviously, to feel like my best self.
Everybody feels better when they're productive and feel like they're getting shit done. You're just kind of floaty.
You're floaty. Yeah, floopy.
Yeah, floopy.
Yeah, floopy.
We can all incorporate that.
The last one is suicidal ideation, which is something that I've experienced in more severe cases. And just kind of like not necessarily thinking about suicide in a serious sense, but just it kind of coming in and out of my mind, and then like I will just blurt it out and say it, like, oh, I want to die, oh, like this day's been so hard, like I just don't want to live anymore, and like I say it in a jokey sense, right? But it's a serious thing, and it's something I would really love to stop doing.
Something to note when it comes to that topic is it's very, it is the sense of losing control.
It's a loss of control for sure, because when I'm not in that PMDD headspace,
wouldn't be there.
Would never be there. Not
it's just scary
years.
That you can go from, like, it's terrifying really, to that you can go from like fine to like worrying that something's gonna happen.
Yeah, just not being in control of yourself.
Not having any control of your body. Yeah. One that we did want to mention.
And we mentioned this a little when we were talking about yours.
Yeah, you gotta just... Crying.
It's a big one.
We both are very active criers.
Crying spells. It's a favorite.
My family, every time they tell a story about me, it's about me crying. So what we're going to go into now is just reading some articles and some things that you would get if you Googled PMDD. We're just going to go over them, talk about the things we like, talk about the things we don't like. So the first one we're going to read is the WebMD PMDD symptoms list. They start with mood swings, depression or feeling of hopelessness, intense anger, conflict with other people, tension, anxiety, irritability, no interest in your usual activities, trouble concentrating, fatigue, appetite changes, feeling out of control, sleep problems, cramps and bloating, breast tenderness, headaches, joints or muscle pains, and hot flashes.
3 things to mention here.
Yeah.
I love that they included hot flashes. That is something I have experienced, and it is alarming.
I have not, but I'm glad she feels seen and heard.
I feel seen and heard. Yeah. I am not going through menopause.
I also like when any article involves conflict with other people. I think that is, it's a huge thing. I know a lot of people get diagnosed through interactions with other people, so that is
that's a great
good
one.
to note. Out of control. There's a lot of good things on this one.
I like the no interest in your usual activities one because that is something that I experience a lot with fatigue. I just don't have time to do things that I'd like to do.
Yeah. Next one that we're going to be reading is from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Women's Health.Government.
We're not huge fans of this.
We're not huge fans of this website and the information that it is.
We thought that it was very vague in explaining PMDD, and it also was wishy-washy with the information, saying like, oh, it could be hormonal.
It may be related to hormonal
this, it might be that.
It's very... It's not informative.
See if there's anything that was different that they added than the last one.
No, but they mentioned some really good things about anger that may affect other people, panic attacks, often crying, lack of interest, tiredness, low energy. One thing that I don't like that they added was food cravings and binge eating. I think that we've both established from reading these articles that everybody's appetite and food relationship is different, and it's not always food cravings or binge eating. It could be lack of appetite. It can be whatever. So overall, just like more general.
Because I'd say I don't binge eat. I have a hard time eating.
I agree. I personally agree with that.
But I know that other people do experience that. Yeah.
I also like that they mentioned feeling out of control because that is how I feel.
All the time.
I think the last one that we're going to read is the womensmentalhealth.org. This one's my favorite. It is an article talking about PMS and PMDD, but the two are separated. And they've separated it into 3 categories: psychological symptoms, physical symptoms, and behavioral symptoms.
Yeah.
For psychological symptoms, they mention anxiety, feeling overwhelmed or out of control, increased depressed mood, irritability, mood swings, sense of feeling overwhelmed.
That's a big one, and I mentioned that in my own, but
being overwhelmed. I also like this one, these next 2, sensitivity to rejection and social withdrawal. That wasn't mentioned in any others, and I really think that was a good addition. Sudden sadness or tearfulness, like that's very, as far as physical symptoms, they mention abdominal bloating, appetite disturbance. I think that's a really good way to put it. Breast tenderness, headaches, lethargy or fatigue, muscle aches and or joint pain, sleep disturbance, usually hypersomnia. This was an interesting thing because in other articles we've read, they mention insomnia, which I personally don't relate to because when you're fatigued and tired all the time, all I would like to do is go to bed. And swelling of extremities is the last one on that one. Under behavioral symptoms, we only have 3. We have fatigue, forgetfulness, and poor concentration. Personally, I do like this list the best.
Me too. We looked at some others and they were kind of just repeating what the others had to say. Yeah, it's very repetitive. Some other things they didn't say. There was like muscle spasms, heart palpitations, reduced sex drive, acne. You know, just some other things that make sense.
There's no way that we could possibly cover all of the symptoms or any of these articles could possibly cover all of the symptoms.
We understand that for sure.
We understand that for sure. Some of them are a lot more brief, some of them are a lot more thorough. It's just very different. And it's going to be very different based on who you talk to as well. I think that's all we really have to say on this video.
That's it for symptoms.
Yeah, before we leave you, we'll do our check-ins.
Our check-ins.
Ellie, you can go first.
Yes, thank you.
How have you been?
I've been okay. My PMDD in the last week, like I got my period on Saturday, so I had my PMDD symptoms the week before, and I'm trying to remember what it was like right now, but if I recall correctly, it was manageable, which is something I don't normally say.
That's true.
But
that's a win.
I was able to deal with it. I think I had 2 episodes, and they weren't huge. They were kind of minor. And I didn't have as much stress because I finished school a few weeks ago. So that definitely helped.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you?
I feel like since getting diagnosed specifically in the past month, I've been having a little bit of a mental breakdown, and I kind of have come up with a plan and gone off my birth control and started a tracker and things like that, and I feel like I want to regain control over my body's natural cycle, and learning and tracking and feeling more secure in my diagnosis and in my symptoms. So
amazing.
We'll see how that goes.
We love that.
Yeah.
We love that here.
I think so far it's been going well, but I also have not had my luteal phase, so we will see how that goes. We've been getting a little more love and support and appreciation, and it's really nice to know that.
And advice.
We
got some great advice on our last video about putting timestamps on our videos. Thank you. Shout out to that person for commenting that, because
we will be doing it.
We will be doing it, and it is helpful. I rewatched one of the videos, and I
know, so did I. I was like, how does this work? Very professional. Yeah. We have also, I wanted to mention, we have our email linked in the description. If you want to ask questions or suggest video ideas or what would be the most helpful for you to see soonest, any community interaction would be extremely helpful and like greatly appreciated.
Yeah, and any resources we feature on here as well. If you want to get the links to those or contact people we've mentioned, let us know. Thank you for watching.
We will see you soon.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
I have PMDD.